Welcome to another CityBilly DIY project. In this video, I'm going to show you how we built this custom oak wine rack for our home speakeasy bar. Special thanks to Binford Tools for sponsoring this video. Let's get started. I used the dimensions of the existing cabinets to get the overall size of the wine rack. For the shell of the wine rack, we used 1x12 oak boards. My lovely wife got the assist on this project after I got in a fight with a tree. I think it's fair to say that the tree and I both lost that day. But 2 metal plates and 9 screws from our friends at Binford got me on the road to recovery. My miter saw isn't capable of cutting a 1x12 board in one cut, so we cut the boards to rough length and then cleaned up the edges on the table saw. Once the pieces for the shell were cut, I set my table saw fence to 3/4 of an inch and began cutting the horizontal support pieces that the wine bottles will rest on. Next, I drilled pocket holes on the top and bottom of the shell. The holes on the bottom piece will face the floor, and the holes on the top piece will be covered by counters. I used a dado blade to cut channels in the top and bottom of the wine rack to give the vertical supports a little more stability. In my research for this project, I learned that wine bottles need to breathe. Who knew? So instead of using solid dividers, I decided to leave spaces between the vertical dividers to allow for air to move around. I used a scrap piece of wood that was the size of each of the bottle openings as a template to space out the horizontal pieces. I made sure to leave room at each end to account for the dado cut. I cut a 45-degree angle on the front end of all of the horizontal support pieces. I didn't want any hard corners sticking out that I might bang a wine bottle or my hand into. I used wood glue and brad nails to attach all of the horizontal support pieces. For the interior vertical supports, I attached the front and the back first, and then centered the middle piece. This helped keep everything square as I went along. It was around this point where I realized that not all the boards were exactly the same thickness. My fault for assuming, I guess. You can see the horizontal supports had to bend ever so slightly around the vertical piece, which was a huge pain, and I ended up cracking a few horizontal pieces along the way. In hindsight, I should have put everything through the planer before I started assembling. Next, it was time for stain. I went back and forth on if I should stain everything before or after assembly. I decided to assemble the parts first so that I could see my pencil marks. Staining the center dividers was pretty difficult getting in all the nooks and crannies. I ended up wearing a nice blister in the top of my fingers from wedging my hand under all the edges. This was the downside of putting the dividers together before stain. Typically I use dark walnut stain for all my wood projects, but we wanted the wine rack to match the existing cabinets in the Speakeasy, so I used Varathane black cherry stain. I secured the center dividers with wood screws and put the shell together with pocket screws. I used 1/2-inch plywood for the back and secured it with pocket screws. And that's it. 5 columns of 7 bottles, carry the 1. That's 35 bottles of wine. And here's the final product. Be sure to check out the other videos of our Speakeasy project. Thanks for watching.